My research was motivated by a project that I started working on in 2018, which was a journey to reconnect with my Kenyan heritage and learn about colonialism in Kenya and its impact on Black identity and the way that we see ourselves as Black people in the African diaspora. And when I went to Kenya, I learned about my granddad, who was one of the first Africans to excavate ancient monuments in East Africa. And I was so impressed when I heard that. It wasn't, my family didn't even know that it was someone else that worked for National Museums of Kenya that gave me the information about my granddad. But there wasn't that much on him. Like, I couldn't Google and find his name anywhere, even though he was a foreman of some of the biggest tourist attractions in Kenya. But his British boss is very well known. They both passed away. They were around in the colonial period. So that gave me, I guess, like a sense of agency to think about the fact that so many African people were erased from their own history. It was interesting to learn, when I was researching about my granddad's work, that some of the ancient monuments he worked in, like Gede ruins, were said by the colonial administration to be built by Arabs and Persians. They denied that Africans even had an involvement in building the ancient monuments on their very shores. And that to me was just so ridiculous. And even more heartbreaking that history wasn't really corrected. You'd have to maybe speak to an academic. And again, if you Googled, you really couldn't find the information that was a truer reflection of what African history really is, and a history that acknowledges the Black contribution. So that was my motivation, really, when I started with the Community Action Research Group, was to dig deeper into that and to look at the collections at the Horniman and see what the take was on their Kenyan archaeology collections, to see if Kenyans were acknowledged, if Black people were acknowledged, and they weren't. So it led me to believe that obviously this is a massive, wider issue, bigger than the coast of Kenya. But it was such an amazing experience to look through the collections. It's a really rich collection. But I was also really encouraged that when I challenged some of those things, that the staff at the Horniman were really supportive of me going through that process. And they gave me a wealth of information, and they allowed me to interview them and put a documentary together. So it was an amazing experience. In terms of the challenges and the barriers that I faced during my research, I've got a little bit of research experience from doing documentary work, but in terms of researching collections held in museums, doing that initial search on the site was a little bit daunting, and I think it was the same for maybe some of my fellow trainees. I was searching information and not coming up with photos sometimes, so I wasn't sure what was there. So I depended quite heavily on the collection center to help me find things. So when I came across some obsidian, they had a photo of that actually on the website. So there's some obsidian that was excavated and donated to the Horniman Museum in the 1920s. So I guess the challenge and the barrier that I faced was that there was, like a little paragraph on Louis Leakey, who donated the collection. His name was attached to the collection, but I couldn't find any names of any Africans that were involved in that. And, I widened the search beyond the Horniman. I looked at Pitt Rivers, I approached the British Museum, and it was the same thing, Louis Leakey, Richard Leakey, his son. So, and other people, the staff at the Study Collections Centre were really helpful, because I got to go in and actually see the obsidian objects in person and all of the other associated objects with that collection from Kenya, which was great. So in spite of the obstacles I faced in terms of researching and getting to know the actual objects themselves and learn more about the uses of obsidian and the origins, that was all solved. But I guess the unsolved issue, which was the biggest issue for me, who were the Africans that were involved in excavating these objects, and why are they not on the collection? How can we get them back? So that's still a challenge. That's still a challenge that we're facing. So through the Community Action Research Group, we had that space to navigate issues of going through the website, finding out more about the collections. It was great to have staff from the Horniman guide us through every step of that process, from one-to-ones that we were having with JC, to the help that you gave Tom and just helping us undertake those initial searches, to the study collection staff, or you call them the stores, right? So yeah, so I think it was really firstly the staff that helped us to navigate the challenges, helped me to navigate those challenges, and also just undertaking that wider research with other institutions that were able to shed a bit more light. And in terms of trying to find the missing names, I went to National Museums of Kenya, who are also really, really helpful. And they've done some research. There is one name that's coming up. I just need to verify it. But he worked with Louis Leakey during that period. So it is likely that he was involved. And he is on the Leakey Foundation website as well. So that's like a little bit of a breakthrough, which I hope will lead to more, because I guess the dream would be to find, the entire team. I'm sure that information is out there somewhere. So I think the dream is to find that entire team and add them to the collection. So when people do a search on Kenyan archaeology or Kenyan history, when they visit the Horniman website, or maybe even other, British Museum has that same obsidian as well, so that they see these Africans. So navigating that challenge, I think it will be a matter of promoting the work that's being done and getting the word out there. And the word is getting out there bit by bit. And it's fortuitous that we're speaking today, because today is a day that we're going to start promoting the Ode to the Answers exhibition, and the obsidian objects are part of that project. So yeah, in terms of how to navigate the challenges, we just need the right people that have the knowledge to come forward, and the problem will be solved. It's led me on such an amazing journey. So when the car started, it was during the pandemic, and there was no music work for me. And I'm primarily a musician, like a singer, songwriter, and composer. So just having that space, I think, to continue to research and continue this mission to decolonize African history, it was just such an amazing space to be in. So that was a great journey to meet with my fellow researchers, and the guest speakers that you had on that were all incredible, and they really helped to define the question. Sometimes you search for things, but I think sometimes it's a matter of asking the right questions. So having people like Dr. Miranda Lowe, who came on for as a guest speaker for one of the workshops, and she asked the question, who is acknowledged within the interpretations of history? And that was like a massive light bulb moment, because she was able in one sentence to sum up everything that I've been kind of working towards and searching for. And I used that as a thesis to continue on the journey. And I was constantly asking that question, and I guess laser focusing on that, because there was so much information coming at us, so many different approaches and so many different people. So I think for the researchers, we were thinking, okay, what do we put our energy into? What are we going to present when we do our sharing? So that really hit the nail on the head for me. And then the adventure just got bigger and bigger, because when my output was to make a documentary and a song, and I called it Ode to the Ancestors. And so when I shared that back with the researchers and the partners, the reaction was really good, and people were sharing the work going forward. And it's just been bubbling, just becoming this big, big thing. So UCL got involved, and Johanna and UCL and an amazing researcher called Benjamin Buzenze have been working on a project called Reclaiming African History. And that involves students from UCL, Maseno University in Kenya, and other young people to engage in conversations about African heritage. So that's another project within itself. And then obviously there's now an exhibition that's coming up. So I'm going to be curating a photographic exhibition that's going to be in the World Gallery, and that's going to be from 7th of December 2022 for a year. So it's incredibly exciting, and I just can't wait to get the word out even more. And what is really encouraging for me is that the word has been spread just through people's circles, private circles. So I just can't wait to see what the reaction will be when it becomes public. And I think one of the biggest, I guess, one of the most poignant parts of the journey for me was coming to the realization that memories are being restored, lost memories are coming back to people. So when I started on this research journey, I had 2 photographs of my granddad. One is a portrait of him from the 60s, and the other is one of him as an old man, just, sitting on his veranda. And when we started to research archive photographs for the exhibition, they found more photographs of my granddad. So we've got him like on, holding a stick at Fort Jesus, which is like one of the biggest tourist attractions in Kenya. And he's excavating these sites with like a big team of other African heritage professionals. He's looking like a boss. I'm like, that's my granddad. And I felt really, really proud. I sent the photo to my mum and my uncle, so their memory has been restored. And my mum and my uncle were there, as very young children when that was happening. And I can't help but wonder who else is going to see photos of a great grandfather or an uncle or someone within that collection, and photos that have been hidden away in institutions for decades. So I'm so excited about the prospect of not just reclaiming African history on a macro level for the world to see, but for individuals and family members to have something restored to them that was lost. Ooh, what next? I'd love to do? I would love to continue the work, and just continue to work with more heritage institutions, continue to create artistic pieces, whether that be music or film or something else, to commemorate Black contributions to history. So I'd love to widen the conversation, and I'd love to inspire other people. We've been focusing quite a lot on young people, but I'd really love to inspire people of all ages to tell their stories. I think for me, I'm a regular human being. I'm a girl from Peckham. I don't have a academic background, but yeah, I just have this passion to tell stories. I have this passion to search for history. So I just really want for people that come from non-academic backgrounds, non-heritage backgrounds, to be able to look into their history and see the validity and the importance of sharing that story, and how that story can really change other people's views and maybe even change people's lives. So that is what's next, I hope. So I hope that's not too abstract, but I just hope that the word will spread and other people will just feel inspired to join in the conversation and add to the conversation in their own way through telling their own stories and researching and sharing their own history.